That's why they'll buy a ranch and tear down.
Hi, and welcome to Ask the Manager. We have our new select person here, Michelle Conlon, and I called her select person on purpose because she's on the board of selectmen right now, but it will soon be the select board. What do you think of that, Michelle?
I'm really excited about it. I think there's a lot of a lot of people feel like it's just a word, right? But it matters to little kids. And I have 3 little boys myself, but I have a friend that has daughters. And when I was running, they asked for a sign for their front yard. And her daughter was like, why does it say select man and not select person or select woman? And, after almost 300 years since Shrewsbury has been incorporated, I'm only the 8th woman ever elected to the position. So I think it's time for a change. I'm excited for it.
And I am too, and it mattered to me, so I'm happy about that. We have so many promotions. It's so hard to keep up with all of them, and it's all good. But now Keith Baldinger is now the assistant director. Is that his title?
That's correct. Yep.
Of DPW?
Yes.
Keith has an interesting work history here in town. So, when people say, oh, you need to sweep the floors before you move up, he basically did a lot of that. He worked for the highway department.
That's correct.
And had a couple of different jobs there. Didn't he work for the Parks Department?
Yep.
Then he went off to another town, Concord, and came back to us at a higher level position.
Yep.
And has earned his way to a huge job, I think.
Yes.
What would you have to say about that?
Yeah, well, Keith is a strategic thinker, and he's a good project manager, and he's proven himself time and time again, whether it's the way he looked at the public buildings position. Even though we had a lot of success, he found a way to make it more successful and rethink how things were being done. And he had great oversight and input and changes into the Beale project and now the police station project. And he's always just been a standout, from day one since he's been back. I didn't work with him when he was here, in his prior stint with the town before he went to Concord, but he's used to own his own business, and that just shows through in how he approaches things. And he's a really good communicator too. He's open, thoughtful, proactive, which is really important for a position like this, where he's going to really help all the division managers within the Department of Public Works on projects. And it's just too much for one person, so he can provide higher level management support, both bring things together and tease things out when they need to be teased out. So and one of the main focuses probably for the first 24 months on the job will be the development and work with a consultant and initial implementation of a climate action plan. So obviously public buildings and his knowledge there. Public buildings, number 1 energy consumer for the town, and then the fleet is the 2nd largest energy consumer for the town. Most of those are fossil fuel based right now, so Keith will really use his prior skills to help us move forward from that point. So we're really happy to see him apply for the position. We had other great internal candidates, but he just had a little bit something different that we offered him the position, so we're grateful that he's there. And
you had other internal candidates.
Yes.
So to me, that just spells more of you promoting from within and getting the most you can out of the talent that you have working in town. So I think that's pretty good. Hopefully there'll be positions for some of those other candidates too. The other interesting thing about Keith was that I saw the article where his daughter happens to be one of the students at Assabet that participated in building and fixing, whatever you would say.
Fabricating, yep.
Fabricating.
That's right.
The monument that will be in front of the police station for honoring the 9/11 issue disaster. And so it was interesting that his daughter is following in that direction also.
Yeah.
So that was kind of nice to see.
Yeah, really interesting skill set. I know both of his daughters have gone through Assabet and been very successful. So, yeah, it was a pretty interesting collaboration among the family. And then the other team is, Keith went there as well. So,
And I'm looking forward to seeing that monument when it's actually up in its prominent place in town. So COVID has gone up and down, and someone stopped putting out the numbers weekly. Now we get them in a different way. How are the numbers looking lately for town?
they're really stable, right? They've
Yeah.
been in the mid 40s to mid 50s on a weekly basis. We know there's a lot of caveats and asterisks, and the pandemic has evolved and changed. And, at one time we're getting a lot of tests, and, now there's home tests and all those things. So there's a lot of footnotes to that, but it's been consistent over the last 5 to 6 weeks of
Yeah.
about, 45 to 55 cases per week. And the infection rate, unfortunately, of those taking the tests that are in that public domain has been in the 5% range, which is still high, but that's where the footnotes come into play. How many people are testing at home, and when they're negative or positive, they don't report. That's a pretty common as well. So
And more common now.
yeah.
With all the home
Yeah.
test kits, you don't know if you're capturing all of it.
And we're not trying to ignore any part of the pandemic because it still is ongoing, but we're also trying to play our role in moving forward and living with it. But we rest assured that once or if we see a spike in the fall or at any other point, we'll be much more, shorter turnaround times on our regular reporting schedule and be out there. But it's because it's been pretty consistent lately, we have pulled back from what we've been doing.
I think also, you say you've pulled back, but there's still very strict monitoring of hospitalizations and people that actually have to go to the hospital or be treated. There's more information regarding that. And those numbers, even though it's ongoing, those numbers are lower than what they had been. And it's not necessarily as life-threatening to as many people. Right. It's still life-threatening to people of high risk, but it's not as life-threatening overall.
Correct.
And part of that's people being immunized and so forth.
Yeah, there's treatments available now that weren't available at the beginning of the pandemic, and some that came out midway through are no longer viable with the strains that we have out. But there's antiviral treatments that are really effective. One was just in the news pretty heavily this past week.
Yes.
Little high profile case, but it is still a serious illness. But as it evolves and mutates, there are strains that are less serious, and we have more options now than we did early on. So.
Now, this is a strange thing. A lot of discussion lately about people who did various projects or whatever they did during the early phase of COVID. I found myself thinking, rats, we're not trapped in our house where we can get things done. And I thought, what a warped perception I have. Oh, yeah. But anyways, we're out and about. There's a strategic planning community feedback study. What is that, and why should we participate?
Yeah, so the whole initiative of strategic planning that the Board of Selectmen has put forward is to engage with the community and ask the community how they want their local government to work for them. So, we started in January and did a community survey, and that information was fed to both staff members and the Board of Selectmen, and all that work that's been done calendar year to date, which has included the development of a draft vision statement, a draft mission statement, values for employees to use, and then strategic outcome areas. So really the framework for an action plan for us to help move the town forward and provide better services to residents. that is what's under discussion. Like, did the board hear you, right? Like, is this a direction that we want to move in? You know, we're asking big questions like, does this resonate with you? Is this Shrewsbury? And then once we get through that, in these sessions, we say, well, what projects do you think could really make a difference? What will move the needle? So this is really the centerpiece of the initiative that was put together by the board.
So therefore, it's so important that people participate, so that their input counts.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because what's always frustrating, and you'll see as time goes on even more, that people will complain about something that might have been a decision in town, and it's like, well, you had so much time and opportunity to, share your opinion. You need to share your opinion, and here's a perfect time to do it. So, and the more information and the more participation, the better picture you have of what people in town really want, and it's not just one focus group of people.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's really important, that we get input from everybody on who we want to be in 10 years, where we want to be in 10 years. And, this isn't just an exercise that we're going to go through and build the strategic plan and put it on a shelf and not look at it again. This is something, I think we could have some real valuable, use it, as a tool to move forward as a community, and getting that voice from everybody. We have a lot of really smart people in our community. We have people in our community that lived elsewhere and have, wonderful experiences in other communities. And it's like, what ideas can we bring here? And, what can we do as a town government and as a community to move forward to where we want to be?
Now, Michelle, you were very active in town before you ran for selectman. And you were very heavily active in the schools.
Yes.
Now that you're on the select board, has your perception of anything changed?
I think I've always valued, the work that everybody in our community has done. And, I think there's so many people that contribute to a community and what makes it, the kind of place that we want to live. And I think just sort of that new perspective as a selectman, it really has just kind of grown that appreciation for how hard everybody works, and just how many people go into making this a place that we all want to live. I have 3 little kids, so that's kind of where my involvement, stemmed from, was getting involved in our schools and, seeing the impact that our schools have had on my children's lives and wanting to give back to that. And, we have so much to be thankful for in this community. There's a lot of people that work really hard every day, whether it's at the volunteer level or, just, staffing and administration and management. And, we're incredibly lucky to live in this community. So.
I think so. So what's the scoop on the weeds at Old Mill Pond?
So we had the consultant come out. We used Solitude Lake Management to do an analysis, and I think we're working on treatment options at this point. So I think it'll be both mechanical and chemical treated. Like the bottom of the pond has gotten filled in a little bit with silt and things like that. So I think that needs to be addressed. That's my latest understanding. Honestly, it's been a few weeks or a month or so since I've had a good conversation with Angela Snell about it, but yeah, we're definitely still working on it.
And there was I think it was last fall, a recent, I'm not sure when, Newton Pond had been treated for weeds.
Yes.
The weeds are back already.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a multi-year process, and each year is different, right? So this year, lower water levels, more sun penetration down deeper, so some things have worked against us, but that has taken years to get as densely impacted by weeds as it has. So it'll definitely take us a while to continue to work through it, but that was our commitment.
So you're not turning away from it. There's more work to be done.
A lot more work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Lake Quinsigamon, the sewage leak, the sewage gush into Lake Quinsigamon from Worcester's pump station. They've had a study, and they've put in alarms, and they've taken some action. And Is that enough? Is that logical for them to invest there and not move that pump station away from the lake?
I mean, I think everyone, including those at the city of Worcester, would like to move the pump station, but with development, population, and how the whole system was designed for the last however long it's been, probably 9 or 10 decades at this point. It's a really big feat. You're probably talking, $40 or $50 million to put a new pump station in or relocate the pump station. So that's what happens is we get, development gets denser. There's less opportunities to move it somewhere easily, but
So
part
it'll
of
be
it,
worse in 10 years, it'll be worse.
well, I mean, hopefully that as the different aspects and technologies improve over time, that we don't see that again. But, that can be our only hope. It's definitely not ideal. Its proximity lends itself to bad things when things go wrong, of course. But I think we talked about this before on the show. The geography, like it's many pump stations, including some on the Shrewsbury side, were installed along the lake because bodies of water are the lowest elevation many times in town.
Yeah.
And that's a low point, and then it gets pumped from there. So it's truly is a system, and it's all got to work together.
And are we finding more contamination in the lake with E. coli because of the weather, because of a ripple effect from all of the sewage going into the lake? Did that contribute to it?
Not that we're aware of. Definitely the weather this year, right?
Yeah.
So no, not a lot of fresh water going into the lake. Stream flows are low. The Board of Selectmen took action last night to issue further restrictions because of low stream flow issues. So definitely more, I don't want to call it stagnant water, but less turnover of the water, things like that has been the driver behind it. That and the high temperatures, right, breeds bacteria, all those things. But
a lot of the rain that we've gotten this summer, we haven't had any steady, consistent rain. Right. And so what we have had has been thunderstorms that come through and kind of dump a lot of water all at once, and it causes a lot of runoff. There's not a chance for infiltration for the water to go into the ground when we have really heavy, quick rains like that. And so when you have that surface runoff, that typically brings in a lot of bacteria. So you'll notice, like I said, I have little kids. We like to go swimming a lot. And if we go to any area, lakes and stuff, we tend to avoid them after we have thunderstorm days, because those are the days that typically you'll end up with high bacteria levels in the lake.
Right.
So
it also messes up people's swimming pools.
Yes.
Also. So we'll just deal with it and have to do a few rain dances, though, so that we get some steady rain around. And then Dean Park has the toxic algae.
Yeah.
That's consistently appearing every year now.
Mm-hmm.
How is that treated? Because that's different than what we're getting in the lake.
It's chemically treated right now, but we are trying some additional mechanical things with new fountains and filters. And there's decorative fountains that have been in that lake donated by the Donahue family historically, but we're going to move to more of a I can't think of the right word, a fountain system that's actually designed to help mitigate the development of bacteria and things like that, really move the water around more.
When will that happen?
We're working on it for this summer, to get that installed. And we're still doing chemical treatments to the extent that we have to, but it's something that we're always going to chase. It's, kind of a...
And then you have all those geese. Every day, those geese won't go away. They're on all the ball fields right at the front of the park. And I think, oh, those poor kids, they're going to go sliding in geese stuff. And there's a large number of geese. Now, what can you do to get rid of so that they stay off the land, so that they're not where you're trying to use
that's a hard one, because, you can move a flock away or do a number of things.
Dogs?
Yeah, but it's they just come back, right?
They do?
They're always going to be drawn to that area because of the grass, because of the water, because of
people feeding them.
Yeah, well, the lack of people at some points, right? It's not a field that gets used 365 days a year. It's a nice big open grazing ground, and it's definitely.
They know to hit it in the morning too. They're out there. If I happen to go by, it's like there they are. And I just think of the poor kids when they're trying to go out there to play. And can you do anything about that?
Not that I know.
I don't know. Can you like have a goose poop raker or something? See, now you need to invent that because look at all the inventions. That's what we need.
Yeah.
And we talk about the water restrictions that last night. What would you like to tell us about that?
So last night we had a presentation from Dan Rowley and Jeff Howland about our water levels, and the Board of Selectmen voted to increase the water restrictions that we have in town right now. So stream flows are low, our wells are doing okay, but we are in, we're in a critical drought period at this point in our state. So we have restricted lawn irrigation, and you can't fill a pool, you can't top it off more than 2 inches. Just additional. We already were in a I think started May 1st. Is that correct? Our first water restriction, and we just increased the level. So we're not fully restricted yet. You can still do hand watering of your gardens, vegetables, flowers, ornamentals. You can even hand water your lawn, but there is no, it is limited. You're not allowed to use sprinkler systems or anything like that. So
What are our wells at as far as measurements? Did they talk about that?
We're not having any issues with water depth at this point, so we are seeing lower levels in the water column than we would during obviously a rainy cycle, but we are moving into that 2016 stream flow level, which was really low and almost came to a stop at no water at one point. So it is back to 2016 levels, with the exception of not seeing manganese in people's houses, like we did that summer.
Yeah.
But it's everyone kind of remembers that summer as the summer of the drought. Well, we're in it again, of course, as you can see. So.
Yeah. So another reason for a rain dance. So now, rodent control notice. What's going on?
Yeah, so we've actually had some rodents past few summers in areas, and we've attributed them to a number of things. Sometimes it's high water levels, but we don't have that this year, and we're still having some issues. So we're just trying to get notices out there to folks and try to be diligent with what they put out. Once you have the population, they're going to go to the bird feeders.
We
and
stopped
all
feeding our
those
birds.
Things. It's a shame. But,
Yeah,
we
we enjoy it so much, and we stopped putting
Yep.
bird seed out,
Yep.
but.
Yep.
It's an issue. It's not just in Shrewsbury. It's all over the
It's
state.
everywhere.
I have family in other communities, and there's issues everywhere right now. So,
How much is related to construction? Is it related to construction or not at all?
I don't know. There could be
They're
some.
getting moved out of their homes? I don't know.
Somewhat could be. I don't know the real data behind it, to be honest.
they're animals that thrive in suburban and urban and built environments, really. So, it's you go out in the middle of the forest, you're less likely to see a mouse than you would maybe in your backyard along a stone wall or something like that. So, there are a lot of animals that really just thrive in built environments around people. People bring food, they bring shelter. So there's a lot of things that just bring, we see it with coyotes and possum and chipmunks, everything. So it's the same with rodents and rats and mice and everything.
Okay, on another subject, we'll get off animals and all that other stuff. The town center signs are up. What do you think of them?
I think they're great. I think it adds like a little bit of, like charm to the downtown area. I knew they were coming, and I had no idea what they were going to look like. So the first time I saw them was when they were up in the town center. But I think it's nice. You're at the library and you can see, the Artemis Ward House is down this way, and St. John Fields are down this way, and I thought it was a nice addition to the town center.
Yeah. What do you think?
I definitely like them. They're very nice looking. I think they're well constructed. Over the years, some of the more gateway signs, I hope we can do a little landscaping around. So it'll be a work in progress. And some of the sign locations may need to change. We've gotten some feedback, requesting that, and we're open to it, but I think the overall project enhances the town. It builds the town center, provides the charm that Michelle mentioned. I definitely agree with her on all those comments, and we're proud of them, and they'll blend in a little bit more, and we'll build off of that character as we do other things in the town center. So
So I see the signs that say entering the town center, and they're colors that I really like. They're pretty blues and everything. But I don't know why. I don't think that they fit the environment, and I don't know what you could do differently. Like when I see the sign, it's like, ooh, it doesn't fit. So something needs to be done to bring it into the area around
Soften the
it.
air around it.
Yeah.
I that's my opinion. Like, there's a couple of them that I do feel that look a little stark. You know what I mean? And that's why, if we could do some mulch beds or, some seasonal flowers, if we could, do some of that either through staff or the garden club or something like that. I do think that would soften it and enhance it, but I really like the signs.
The garden club has done a phenomenal job
Unbelievable.
on those traffic islands in the
Yes.
center of town. Are absolutely stunning.
Every
So,
season they get better and better.
I don't drive through downtown. A lot of times I'll go up 140, but I don't drive, past the old Beale building a lot, and there's the traffic islands in between the road there, and it just took my breath away.
Oh,
It's
it's
absolutely beautiful. So
I know.
it would be great if we could partner with them somehow and have them put some flowers
I
around
know.
the signs.
They've done an incredible job.
They should be
this
proud
year
of
they're
it.
beautiful.
Absolutely.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it's
They
still
are.
probably one of the biggest hidden gems, at least in my opinion, in town, is the garden on the back side of the town hall that they
Yes.
maintain as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people don't see that. Not a lot of people park on that side of the building. They park in the front, but if you ever have the opportunity, if you're at the town hall, if you're at the front door, go around the building to the left, and there's a wonderful sensory garden back there.
There's water features back there. I was coming in for a meeting the other day, and I saw a monarch butterfly, which has been recently added to the endangered species list, and they do really wonderful work back there. So
And the spinner, I'm mesmerized by that. I want to just sit and stare at that when I'm back in that corner. And I do have butterflies in my yard. Not to my credit, but they're in my yard. My husband's credit. Anyways, so 409 South Street, which is the Gray Star Project 55 and over, which was last night, was it on the agenda, or the week before, or whatever? Those are 40B apartments. I'd like you to just explain why on earth we would have all those apartments coming into town now and what it means. Because
I can start.
okay.
So, it's 200 or so, or roughly 200 apartment units. They're age restricted, 55 plus. 49 of them are designated as affordable, so they will be income restricted. Those units have the opportunity to have individuals live there that are less than 55 years of age. So
Really?
they won't have.
Oh.
You can't age restrict.
That's too bad.
affordable,
Yeah. So, so part of this is desire, right? It's the market coming in. That property was zoned commercial, was not zoned residential. 40B, Mass General Law, Chapter 40B says that, whenever there's an affordable component to a housing project, developers can override local zoning and build a residential complex on a commercial or otherwise zoned property, that wouldn't have allowed a multifamily residential. So the Board of Selectmen really, looked at this and said, we're not a proponent of this project, but we understand that you have the right to do it, and isn't it better to not turn our backs on you and try to shape the project, ensure that it is age restricted, ensure that there is true affordability, ensure that we can perhaps work either to our near-term, moratorium period where no additional residential can use 40B to come into town. So they considered a series of opportunities. Again, not proponents of the project. They're certainly not, bending over backwards for them to come into the community. But when someone comes in and has the unilateral right to do whatever they want, it's better to part with them and say, hey, why don't you do this? Would you consider that? If you did this, we'll work with you on that. And the developer needed us to be able to get state funding. So they have an interest in working with the board as well. So that's my opinion on the approach that the board took.
So it doesn't impact schools.
hopefully. I mean, they're, you know, it would have a minimal impact on schools, where it's age restricted.
Yeah.
And so therefore, town services should probably be held at a minimal based on the historic nature
Yeah.
of what we have for 55 and over
Yeah.
projects in town anyhow.
Yeah.
It's tax dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And we add to our 40B, and I know John always used to
Mm-hmm.
keep track of how much percent of
Mhm.
40B we have, because once we get to a certain point, then we're more protected.
Right.
But we're nowhere near that
Right.
level.
Right. Well, so there's a couple triggers. Well, there's a trigger and then there's an ultimate. So the state, in order to never be susceptible to a 40B project, again, we'd have to have 10% of our housing stock as affordable. So we're only at about 6% right now. But there's other near-term triggers that occur that would prevent, new 40B development from either being developed within 1 year or 2 years of certain number of housing units being constructed within the community. So we're nearing those numbers as these developers pull their permits and get the properties in the ground, and that's something that we're working with the board on right now. As there's some other interest and some other developments in the community, and I always one of the when it comes to sheer economics of what it costs us to provide services to residents. Higher density housing is less costly than subdivisions. There's not new roads to maintain, there's not new water mains to maintain. It's really everything connects into an existing road, everything connects into an existing sewer system, water system. So we're not really expanding our footprint. So that keeps new costs lower, and then the school costs are different as well in the apartment communities. But again, it was a project that the board saw the need to find the best path forward, and I think that's what they negotiated.
The animal control officer, we have an intermunicipal agreement. Why was it only for 6 months?
We've been in kind of on and off negotiations of whether we're going to continue to participate with the town of Westboro and Grafton. The town of Westboro and Grafton have a much more formal and close relationship, and we only participate when there's vacations or something like that, backup is needed. So it's really incumbent upon Westboro and Grafton to figure out their a relationship long term more than it is ours. So they have a newer town administrator and Grafton, so they're still kind of working that through. So we've just been going along to support them on a mutual aid basis. So we'll continue to participate until they no longer need us.
But other than that, it's not beneficial to us?
No, I mean, backfilling of some, vacations, but we haven't utilized the agreement too much. Not like the two of those towns do.
So-
themselves, where they actually share them.
So it's probably going to be short-lived
Yeah.
going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Extreme heat. I guess we've had extreme heat.
Mm-hmm.
And town buildings were offered to have people come in for relief for air conditioning and cooling down, specifically the senior center and the library. How did that work out?
It was an easy lift for us, I'll say that. I don't have the exact data on the number of people that utilized those services over the past weekend, but it's something that it's easy for us to do, and control the HVAC systems a little bit different, just keep them running. And we have the really supported by the Citizens Emergency Response Team, the CERT team, that come in and staff the senior center on
I wondered
Sunday.
about that. So it was the weekend, senior center staff didn't handle this,
Yep.
the CERT team did.
Correct.
And they're volunteers.
They are volunteers. Yeah,
I mean, that's a big commitment for
it is.
someone to commit in the middle of summer on a weekend
Yeah.
to do for the town. So we should be very appreciative to the people that did volunteer. The emergency blinking light that you see signaled when they're going to jump the traffic signal when an ambulance is coming through or whatever,
Yep.
those have been really effective.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that didn't happen through the center of town. Don't we have them at the center of town?
There isn't. I don't believe there are any at the
So
140 intersection.
here we have the fire station
Yeah.
right there,
Yep.
but there's no blinking lights
Yeah.
to
Yep. Yeah. I mean,
jump the traffic.
yeah, fire. it's a conversation that we've had, whether we want to implement them or not.
It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
And it's been such a effective tool
Yeah.
for, I mean, all you have to do is see the blinking and you realize something's coming and you look around to figure out which direction so you can get out of the way.
Yeah.
It gives you more time to get out of the way.
Yeah.
So I would think that it would be helpful.
One of the specific issues that we deal with in there is, so those are a line of sight. They're called an Opticon, and they trigger off of a rapidly blinking white light on top of the emergency vehicle. So by the time that a fire truck actually gets on 140 where the light
Too
is,
late.
it's not really effective.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been working with Mass DOT to do triggers from within the fire station when the vehicle comes out.
Yeah.
So it
When
just
you hit the button to open
Yeah.
the garage door, it
Yeah.
should start
right.
getting, so people can get out of the way.
Correct.
Because it is very congested and
Yeah.
there's only so,
The challenge, the
Much
challenge with
space.
that is it's, which direction are we going to go?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because are we going to come Maple Avenue, or are we going to go Main Street, towards Northborough, or are we going to head down 140 towards Grafton?
and I would think if it's an emergency, impose on all of us. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter, let
Yeah.
the emergency vehicle get through.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, empty storefronts.
Hmm.
Do we have more empty storefronts, or is it just that they're in certain areas? I mean, Route 9 has a lot of empty storefronts all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a good balance, I think, turnover on Route 9 with the new, urgent care veterinary place opening up. So we have seen new businesses open. We've had a couple businesses leave, but I think all in all, it's on the...
What about like the Worcester City Motel? There was construction and you thought,
Yeah.
holy cow, finally it's going to be fixed after all these years, 50, 60, 70 years of being a dump.
Yeah.
And they're going to finally fix it. And it stopped.
Yeah, it's just stalled.
Why?
Yeah. I don't have a good answer for that.
Oh.
It's up to the developer to keep moving it forward.
And the other thing I think about when we're coming down Route 9 is why don't more of the businesses update their storefronts so that, they really need a facelift.
Yeah.
And like if you go down Shrewsbury Street, there's buildings that were in much worse shape than the ones on Route 9, and they're making an effort to update. And the island in the middle, another place where there's beautiful flowers going along the way.
Yeah.
We go down our Route 9 and it still looks cheesy.
Yeah.
I mean-
think, there's been slow, White City had a facelift a few years back, and, with what was that vacant Spags property for a really long time is now the Whole Foods property, and they have some really pretty landscaping around there. But I think it's one of those things that's slow to see the change. Shrewsbury Street is a perfect example.
Yeah.
It was really run down for a really long time, and there were some really spectacular restaurants that came in and sort of slowly changed the whole face of that area. And now, like you said, there's those beautiful gardens down the center of the road, and I think that we're heading in that direction. I hope we are. And there's been a lot of the crosswalk design down in the Lakeway Business District, the White City area. We have the nice brick crosswalks, and I think it's just one of those things that's slow. And you see private property owners, as the land around them, is improved. I think it increases their value, and they'll hopefully either, make improvements themselves or sell to somebody that wants to, beautify the area. So.
And one of the projects that we're working on is a facade grant program for the town center area. So, providing some grants and incentives for people to do just that, improve the front of their building. And, if we're able to get funding for that and get a program like that off the ground, maybe it can expand outside of the town center to, the more commercial.
Speaking of the town
corridors.
center, okay, so a facade grant. Who's responsible for the weeds coming out of the trees, where the trees are planted? It's right in front of businesses. Why don't they plant flowers there or put mulch down?
Yeah.
They
could have
they could take an effort too. It's a business.
Yeah, they could
it's-
certainly maintain that.
It's not up to just
Yeah.
tax dollars and townspeople. It's their business. We're trying to make it look better, and we're getting all these grants. but yet, for God's sakes, fix the weeds in front of your business. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, how's the public comment period going? You've had a couple of meetings with it. Have you had any people come in for public comment?
We haven't had any takers yet. You know, we're kind of in like in the dead of summer right now. There's not a whole lot of exciting things on our agendas this time of year, but I think it's a great opportunity for people to get their voice heard. It's, you know, a real opportunity to come and sit in front of all 5 selectmen at the same time. But yeah.
Sorry.
We haven't had any takers, so you know, and we are always available to contact in other ways. You can email, you can call. I think all 5 of us, I mean, I can really only speak for myself, but I think everybody's willing to have conversations with people, so it's not the only time that you could reach out to your selectmen, but it is an opportunity for, you know, active participation, so.
Yeah.
That's all you have to say about that?
No, I mean, I'm really proud that we have, you know, an opportunity for the public to comment. I know it's certainly not a requirement, but
yeah,
you know, in the conversations that I had with board members, it's kind of like it's one of those things that I think for a citizen, it's kind of like a no-brainer. Well, why wouldn't I be able to, you know, come and speak at the meeting? And I think it's a great opportunity for residents to do just that. And
okay, so I'm a resident and I don't know what's going on in town, and I want to come up and speak, but I can't just come up and speak. I have to have an appointment to come up and speak, correct?
Yes.
So in what rule book would a resident find that information? I mean, here I go again, sorry. The selectmen have decided that they have to have all these policies. So now they have so many policies. It's like, do they have a policy book? Is it available to the public? Where do you find all those policies?
Yeah, so it is available on the Board of Selectmen's website.
It is?
Yeah, it is. It's right there, and it is up to date. So the last policy, I think it was 31, is this public comment policy. So you can read it. We tried not to make it arduous, but we also recognize the fact that there are going to be times throughout the year when it's not the dead of summer and there are going to be hot topics, and the board does have work to conduct as the executive body. So what's the time length going to be? And it was really, honestly, the right time to do it. We did it whenever there wasn't a pressing issue, when we had the opportunity to take a breath, take a few meetings, get it right. There's a lot of back and forth between the board at the meetings on what the draft should be and how long folks could speak and things like that. So it's not an arduous process. It's really simply just contacting any of the staff members before 4:30 on the day before the meeting. And if there's still a spot remaining, which 0 have been taken so far, you can come in and
so I just have to wait
comment.
for a hot one so I can then
or you can come
needle
in.
you a little bit more.
You can come in next time.
So on the agenda, I noticed there was something relative to policy 29. What's policy 29?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, something about Hazel Road or Hazel Ave.
Oh, that's the address policy.
Oh, there's an address policy.
So one of the responsibilities of the Board of Selectmen is establishing addresses within the community, and throughout the years we've had people who've had an officially designated address by the town is either not what they've historically used on their property, not what the post office has used for them. So there's and then it's also a little bit more proactive, as sometimes commercial development and lots are split and things like that, where the board can rely upon this policy. The one at the meeting last night was on Hazel Avenue, where a resident historically used number 10. Everything on the town's coffers said it was number 8. But the post office, their mail, state 911, all that had a different address, so we changed the town. They petitioned the town and we changed it. So, yeah, it's not.
So why do the selectmen have to get involved in that? Why isn't it just the town department?
The Mass General Law says the Board of Selectmen sets the addresses within the town. So you could have changed a lot when you're a selectman.
Oh my word! And so have we had mosquito spraying?
Just the routine stuff. No significant outbreaks. You know, Central Mass Mosquito Control has been in town when needed, but It's weird, right? Like, we haven't had a lot of rain. I still have mosquitoes at my house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's interesting.
I don't want them at my
You would
house.
think that in years of drought we don't see the mosquitoes, but they're
Still
around.
do.
Yeah, they're
Mm.
around.
And what's going on with the WRTA bus route? Used to just come
Good
from
things.
like down by Dean Park and come
Yep.
straight to Worcester, and now it goes through Lakeway. Is it going to go through Market Basket?
That's the breaking news. Yeah.
Isn't
So,
that
yeah,
exciting?
yeah,
I
so-
think it's really good.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
wonderful. I mean,
Yeah.
that provides the right connectivity and options for residents across, you know, for all reasons, right? For those who don't have a car, those that don't want to use a car, you
Right.
know, all those things.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's pretty good, and it feels to me like we're actually using the bus routes to the residents' advantage. In other words, it goes through UMass, it goes, you know, through Lakeway, so people can hop on the
Yep.
bus.
Yep.
So it's slow progress, but I think it's good progress.
Getting there. Yep.
We can't throw our mattresses away after November 1st. What are we gonna have, mattress bonfires? Get a permit from the fire department? What are we gonna do with our mattresses?
They just need to be recycled.
They're so expensive, you don't wanna get rid of it anyhow.
That's true.
But,
Yeah.
so, did you had commented that you were looking into options?
Yeah, we're looking into options for residents. So they're not allowed to be picked up, you know, and just thrown out in the trash
The bulk
anymore.
waste,
They have to be recycled, you know, by certified facilities. So there could be an option where Waste Management says, like, we've partnered with someone and we will take them.
For a small fortune?
Yeah, it will be expensive because, you know, it's a lot different to throw something in a hole in the ground than it is to recycle it, right? So, but it's obviously the right thing to do.
So what caused this?
A state law change.
I know, but
Yep.
what caused that state law? Is there something wrong with mattresses? Is it the material?
Well, there's a
What
lot.
is it?
Yeah, I mean, there's PFAS in mattresses, right? There's some flame retardant
So we sleep
stuff.
on all that.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Great. So how do you? Oh, that's why people have, you know, those healthy mattresses now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 And those only cost five times what a regular one costs, which is out of sight nowadays too. Let's go to the social worker working for the police department. Does the social worker work for? Is that social worker a town employee, or do they work for advocates?
Right now, we receive a grant every year to cover the entire cost, salary, and benefits of that person. It's in the budget, so when that grant goes away, we'll be able. Let me back up. We put the social worker in the budget. We budgeted it. That's a town initiative. Chief Anderson, being the professional that he is, went out and got this grant. So he said, you know, the town wants to invest in this. Let me find money so the taxpayers don't actually have to foot the bill for the first 3 years. So it is a town-oriented initiative, but we're not paying for it right now, and that will be the case for the first 3 years, and then we'll see what happens. Right, like the funds are already in the budget. We'll continue with that. Do we need another one? What's the response been?
So, how have you, or not you? How have the police used this person so far? Do they sit in the police station waiting to be called, or are they out in a cruiser with police officers? What does this person do in a day?
A little bit of everything. So they don't ride, you know, proactively with an officer, but they respond based upon the type of call. They co-respond. They never go by themselves.
So somebody has to go pick them up to bring them to the scene? Do they jump in
They
their Volkswagen and, you know, with the daisies coming out of the roof going,
Yeah.
do they drive their own car to get
they're
there?
a
or-
town vehicle. Yeah.
Oh, so they
Yeah,
get in a
yeah,
town vehicle and
yeah,
go.
if they have to respond, or they are picked up, or they go with an officer. Depends on the situation.
And I'm saying that
Yep.
tongue in cheek because I can see the value of having a
Yeah,
social
of
worker.
course. Yeah, and we've, you know, used them for just a number of things. Whether it's, you know, someone calls with a concern of a you know, a panhandler, a seemingly homeless person, you know, that went into the police department. Normally we'd send a unified armed officer. Now we send a social worker because uniformed armed officer isn't trained in, you know, mental health, social work activities as detailed as this individual is. So it's providing the right response.
Is this social worker a licensed social worker, LICSW, there's different levels of social workers. This is a quiz.
I don't know the answer. I'm more than happy to say that. Yeah.
The reason I ask is
Yeah.
because, I mean, I worked very closely with social workers, so when I tease about social workers, they were my friends. I use them all the time in my line of work, but I can see the value of having this person. I just was trying to really understand how does it work? You know, what's the process? So they get in a car, drive from the station to wherever they need
Even
to
if
be.
I knew I would get it wrong here in the meeting, so I'm not going to guess which one
I
it is.
refuse to tell you.
Yeah.
Social work is, I shouldn't say this here, but they're grossly underpaid. In the field that I was in, they were grossly underpaid, and they were very educated people doing an incredible service for people. And they have access to all sorts of help for these people.
Absolutely.
You know, financial assistance, mental health assistance. There's so many things that they can do.
Absolutely.
I suppose this is a good time to just point out again that there was a police dog named Frankie in Fitchburg. It was a state police dog that got shot yesterday,
It was
which is
devastating news.
disgusting and horrible. And that dog clearly, you know, took that bullet where it would have been a police officer that got it. So it's really terrible. And I'm really touched by it because my son worked with K9 in Connecticut, and so I'd be horrified if that were, you know, one of his dogs that he had worked with. I think it's really awful. And so anyways, I got to go on to something else. The American Rescue Plan Act, 11.5 million, and we've gotten 3.5 million so far. Any more plans for where that money's going from month to month?
We've received the start of the second round of funding in July, and we're still waiting on the largest aspect of the second round. The Board of Selectmen talked about it at both a regular meeting and a workshop a couple weeks ago. They have asked us to survey the community on some project ideas that have been presented by department heads. So later today we'll be out at the farmers market. Tomorrow we'll be at the food trucks. We'll be at National Night Out next Monday night with a tent set up, soliciting resident feedback on Rescue Plan Act, strategic plan stuff. So we want community input. The board set aside roughly $750,000 for our next round of initiatives, waiting till we get that final second payment in hand, and then there'll be another round of funding. You know, considering a larger capital investment still, you know, how's everything going to pan out? You know, what are our obligations? But we're still working on it. So we still have till, we're not trying to slow roll the money, but we have until December of 2024.
And you have to hold on to some because you don't know if you're going to need it
for the pandemic.
Right, in a specific crisis.
Correct. Yeah.
So you have to be wise about that. Route 20, the $5 million that we're receiving from the transportation bond bill. That's nice.
Yeah, there's a meeting on it this morning with Mass DOT about the opportunities. So we don't have funds in hand yet. It needs to be funded through the bond bill, but you know, it's Route 20, it's box widening, it's moving forward with the vision for Route 20, which is consistency across the entire town through that corridors. So, you know, 4 lanes or 5 lanes, you know, not 2 lanes, you know, 3 lanes, 4 lanes, like bring consistency and safety to the corridor. That's the goal.
And there's a proposal for an industrial building, 134,000 square feet, Point at Hills Farm on Route 20, which is around 440 Hartford Turnpike, which is about 10.5 acres.
Right now, at one point, this was going to be residential.
Yeah.
It was part of the Stony Hill 40B project.
40B, right.
It was bought by GFI Partners. So that project was cut in half as far as residential, and this will be a commercial use at that site.
So so more tax dollars for us.
Absolutely.
And that's what we want.
It is.
GFI, is that the same for the Worcester Sand and
That's-
Stone property?
That is correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're
Yep.
They like in Shrewsbury.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic of economic development and new businesses, the first tenant has signed a lease at Centec North. They
Really?
are a media and staging company for the movie industry. They are moving their location from Framingham to Shrewsbury. At the peak in Massachusetts in Framingham, before the pandemic, they had over 400 employees. And they respond to the movie and film and entertainment industries with staging, rigging, all those things. So we're really happy and proud to have them in town, and their lease will start later this fall once the building's ready. But they're taking up half of the smaller building, about 50,000 square feet.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting. We only have a few minutes left. You have many new members on the Finance Committee. How's that working out?
Yeah, we haven't had a meeting yet, but we had a pre-meeting yesterday with two of the new members, just to introduce them to the budget and the concepts. Both are town meeting members, so if they have a solid basis, at least from the spring, underneath them, and we're excited to work with them. I think it'll be good.
Good.
It is challenging to have turnover on the Finance Committee because, Donna, as you know, you're on there for a while. It takes a long time to understand the intricacies of the budget, build confidence, and ask the deep questions that you were able to. But we're
It'll
excited.
work.
Yeah,
It'll work.
It definitely will. Yeah.
So there was an explosion on Oak Street in 2016, and the state received $120,000 for the hazardous chemicals that were in the shed that exploded, and so they received the money for the cleanup. What about the impact to the town? We didn't get any?
Yeah, that was all paid back through the DEP.
Oh, so we
Yeah.
did.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought, hey, what about us?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're part of because we had to have fire on site for several weeks, things like that.
Yeah.
We have been compensated.
I wanted to talk about the light department and broadband. We only have like a minute left. When is that going to be complete across the town?
It's probably not for like 2.5 years.
Because I'm feeling left out.
Yeah, well, so no one's ever said this before, but we have supply chain issues with the fiber.
Wow.
So we're about 50% of the way through the first of 3 segments of build out. So we're at about 3,000 customers' homes right now. Or 1,800 homes, 3,000 in the first phase.
And so they wire this broadband in your neighborhood?
Fiber, yep.
The fiber,
Fiber, yep.
optics, and then they have to come into your house?
Yeah, they have to attach it to the house, yep, and then you have to get new equipment that receives the fiber optic signal. It's not the same equipment as coax, and you switch over.
So then they got a coordinated time to be able to come.
Yep.
So that's got to be labor intensive
Yeah,
too.
we're working through those.
And Market Basket on Route 20. Looks like lots of apartments, but it looks like Market Basket. I thought there were going to be more stores. It looks like it's a much smaller scope of stores.
Well, I mean, yeah, so they don't have plans for all the pad sites yet, but Market Basket will be open this fall.
Yeah.
This
And
fall.
there'll be a few standalones as well, so it's not just.
I know, but
it's
it
not,
looks.
yeah.
I thought there were going to be so many more stores, and it's like, come on, you got all these apartments now and just a couple stores.
Yeah.
But, anyways, we're out of time, and I'm happy to say thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.